Hello everybody and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Happy Season 1 Episode 4, The Year of the Horse. I'm thinking of this one as the one where things get weird. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Albert, it's happy. This show is already, it's going all in for weird. It's got all of its eggs in the weird basket. How could it possibly get more weird? But no, I think that really we're introducing some very interesting new ideas here to this universe. We've had a hint of them in the beginning, right? In the first episode, we set some stuff up. They talked about the monsters that run the world, the Mikey guy who got the info from his uncle or whatever. Like, he had this vision of the world that he didn't want to live in, and, well, we find out he wasn't actually killed, but something happened to him, and he gives his password to Nick. All that stuff happens in the setup, and that was the first episode where we're kind of just sort of putting all of our pieces in place to be used later. And then, last episode was very much a flashback episode, right? Not always flashback, but we did a lot of flashback stuff. And here is another episode where, while a lot of other stuff is going on, we are introducing new concepts to this universe, new ideas that we're going to build even more upon. Now that we know who these characters are, now that we've set all the pieces in motion, now we're going to say, yeah, you think you get this story, but we're going crazy. And this is normal level of weird, but this episode starts with Happy getting eaten. I thought that, when I saw that in the preview, last week they have next time on Happy, and you show Happy getting eaten, I thought this is going to be major, midpoint. Nick has to, cut somebody open and get him back out. And no, that's just where we kick things off. Meth Santa just eats Happy. I love that a lot. All right, I love the fact that Happy's not, digestible. So he just pops back out and is okay and makes Meth Santa throw up, and that... Okay. I'm just going to say these words. Just, say the thing that happened in the episode and just bask in the weirdness of it. The crazy Santa Claus that had taken the magic brownies ate the imaginary pegacorn, and then the imaginary pegacorn made the crazy Santa Claus throw up, and in the puke of the crazy Santa Claus from when he ate the magic pegacorn that is also imaginary was a clue that the detective Nick Sachs had to follow to a fortune cookie company. In addition to all of the other insanity in that statement, one thing that I think might get overlooked is the fact that the Meth Santa ate this fortune cookie whole. He just put the whole fortune cookie in his mouth, fortune and all, chewed it up and swallowed it. This is a character right here. Anyway, after that bananas intro, we have another bananas thing happen. Okay, no, I'm gonna calm down. I don't know. This show has me very excited. We introduce, and you might have thought, did we go to commercial break? Did I accidentally change the channel when this happens? That's a thing that happens fairly frequently in Happy. We get this, Real Housewives of Sussex reality TV show, only all of these Real Housewives are mob boss wives. That's the shtick of the show. They decided to follow mafia wives around with cameras and film their drama, and it's very much sort of your standard reality show shtick, right? As we see the intro here. But they use this to set up the fact that Isabella, the mother of these 4 boys or maybe possibly 3, we'll get to that Happy has killed in the intro to the whole series, right? In the episode 1, that she is being followed around constantly by this reality TV show crew, and she shows up to confront Blue, the sort of shaved head, or at least very close cropped head gangster, about where her boys are and what's going on. And the interesting thing about this subplot is Blue knows. Like, he knows what went down. He knows that Nick got the password. He's got some hit out on Nick. Like, it's not a mystery to him what happened to these boys. He probably knows who put the hit out, but for this woman, this is like a whole separate journey, and she's taking him on it where he doesn't want to tell her. We know the answer, and she's talking to him like, who killed my boys? It's because of your craziness of being a gangster, and they were too young, and you pulled them into this. And he's like, no, they were adults. And you get this scene that plays out pretty much like a normal sort of television mafia wife confronts her husband scene. Or maybe she's not his wife. She might be his sister or something. I did not track that relationship, honestly, because I thought the woman from the first episode was his wife. But anyway, she's confronting him, and he's not giving her the info, and it feels not cliched. I mean, it still played fine if you never threw in the curveball here, but it didn't look like anything we had never seen before. And then you get this like cutaway to reveal that they've been filming this whole thing for the reality TV show. She's been on camera this whole time, and the sort of weird blur, like, you never get the sense, from what I was seeing anyway, I never got the sense that she was acting for the camera. It might be accentuating some drama or whatever, or the producers might be doing some stuff to push things in a certain direction, but she is genuinely bringing all of this stuff to bear, and she's just broadcasting it to the world. It's a weird and interesting thing to have in the show. And it also, I think, because Blue has so much power, right? Blue can have people killed. Probably could have her killed. I don't think that he will. But he's in his own house, and he's a mafia boss, right? He can have other people killed, and yet here she is, not knowing what's going on, right? He has all the cards, except this one card that she has, which is that she has this camera crew following her around, and he hates that. She has this up on him, and I love that he has this little bit of, I mean, I say a little bit, like, I guess if you had somebody in your house that was filming you 24/7, that's more than a little bit of, like, it just, you can't, he's not the king of the hill that he wants to be. And we find out a little bit more about that later on in the episode, but we do have another scene with Amanda and Meredith. This one was, this opening scene where they're interviewing the grieving parents of another child who's been kidnapped, all right? And we got they have the detail of the Wishies concert, and they talk about, how difficult it is. And the way that this plays is almost, of all the offensive things I've seen in the show, this is almost the offensivest, because, like, they kind of play these guys' grief for laughs a little bit. Maybe that's how I was interpreting it too, because in my mind, I'd sort of lost the thread from the previous episode, and I thought, okay, well, these are still the same parents that had the kid locked up in their attic. So I thought they were, like, hamming it up for these people. And when I realized, oh, wait, no, that's not the same people. These are different people who've had their kid taken. That was, like, maybe this is just my fault for being in the wrong frame of mind, but it felt like they were sort of, like, just doing a stereotypical, like, I have all this grief that I have pent up. Maybe that's, again, could be my fault, could be the actor's fault, could be the show just, like, being maybe a little too edgy for my tastes. But, Meredith doesn't have time for this. She's getting texts about, how she needs to hurry things up because they're going to kill her mom or something. She runs outside, brushes them off, is like, this is a sob story. They don't have any information for us other than the Wishies thing, which does kind of line up. She's about to leave, and as she's about to leave, she says, and this happens at least twice, possibly 3 times in this episode, look, it's not like the carrier is just going to pull up here and deliver the envelope. And the carrier pulls up and delivers the envelope. And they get him. Like, they just have him. This is also, just as a reminder, callback to episode 1, where this same guy delivers something to Nick. I believe it's the hit notice for the 4 guys who were the mob bosses, sons or cousins or nephews or whatever they are, that he kills in the first episode. Happy and Nick follow the clue to a fortune cookie factory, and here's where the real weirdness kicks in. Because they get in the fortune cookie factory, Nick is talking to the lady who's the CEO of the factory, and she spins him this idea that there is some kind of important overarching order in the universe. And that they don't just randomly print out the same fortune cookie for everybody, that these fortune cookies are significant, that they're like spiritually charged somehow, and that there is some kind of, I hesitate to say divine, but fatalistic plan for these things as they go out and they find the people that like they're supposed to find. And the fact that the Santa's fortune cookie said the fastest way to, or you can find out, you can find your way to a man through his stomach, or the fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. The fact that fortune cookie was in his stomach, and it is the clue that takes them to him to help them find him, I think is reinforcing that. Like, it starts out as just kind of like, this is sort of a joke, but the fact that this lady's saying, no, there's like literally cosmic significance to these events. Nick doesn't want to have anything to do with this, obviously. He's very much rejecting the whole weird spiritualism that this lady is spinning for him. But that is, I think, the first big introduction of the weird for me into the series, because they're saying, this isn't just a cop show, right? This isn't just gangsters, and this isn't just like insane story and editing. We're also going to have some kind of supernatural element. And that supernatural element is arguably a plot convenience a lot in this episode, all right? We have a lot of people saying, well, it's not like we're just going to fall. That's just going to fall right out of the sky, and then something just falls right out of the sky, right? Nick, later on in the fight, magically has the fight happily end for him. Although he does do some good beating up before then. But at this point, the writers can now just have crazy things happen to further the plot, because we have this idea of some kind of cosmic force that's pushing people towards each other. That is a big one, and it's sort of putting more nails in this box that we're building about the weirdness in the world and these monsters that supposedly run the world. And speaking of, Blue goes to a meeting with apparently his boss, who is a giant bug person. Maybe? Or it's a dude who wears a giant bug person suit and works like in a weird sex club place, but is still Blue's boss. There is a lot to unpack about that. Like, my brain really wants there just to be giant bug people. It seems unlikely to me that there are just giant bug people in the world. But maybe not in Happy. But the way that he moves is like a dude in a suit. It's very, the parsing, and then there's the fact, okay, parsing all of that, right, and forgetting about whether or not it's real, and we don't know, like, I'm not going to figure it out sitting here talking about it. From a story point of view, you have, once again, Blue being put down, all right? We started out with him as this very formidable, forceful figure. He feels like the boss of a lot of things. But in this episode, we've put him in his place twice now, where his wife is following him around with a camera crew and, making his life miserable, and he can't stop that. I mean, he can terrorize the camera crew to a certain degree, but he apparently does not have the pull to make this go away. And now he's got a giant bug person, possibly dude in a suit. It's almost worse if it's a dude in a suit for him. Like, if there's a weird alien bug thing that's dressing down Blue, then you get it. You sort of feel like, I understand what this guy's going through. These are forces beyond his control. If there's just a dude in that suit, and he hasn't bothered to take the weird bug suit off to talk to the mafia boss, who is in charge of, like, a lot of New York, and give him orders, that's like a whole different level of, like, I don't care about you at all level for Blue. And I liked also the part of the episode where Blue is talking to Isabella about who killed the boys, right? She's throughout this episode, she's on this journey to find the killer, right? She's hunting down, sort of standard storytelling mechanics. You have all the threads trying to converge. In that investigation, and again, he knows who did it, so this is just him messing with her. He tells her that this is God's punishment for her being a reality TV star. Like, this guy who has no doubt tortured and killed and probably raped some people at some point, like, is involved with child trafficking, I'm gonna say probably for sex stuff. All right, this guy has a limit on what he's willing to accept, and it's reality TV in his house. That he's willing to invoke God, and I mean, like, the God of the Bible, like, floods in Genesis made Adam and Eve, created the world in 7 days, like, Jesus died on the cross, like, spells out, like, no, I'm talking about the God of Scripture. He is not happy with you, and that's why your sons have died. I guess that is a common, like, mafioso trope, that, you know, they're sort of just, like, they have some kind of moral code, but this guy has a lot of stuff that he will do, and this just the one thing that one, reality TV, not for me. And I do also want to mention, in this meeting with the bug, he talks about the bug makes him say what they're doing. Like, because the Santa Man is kidnapping children. He's taking them to people for something, all right? It's not Christmas yet in this universe. And he doesn't want to say the word children. He doesn't want to bring that to life by actually saying it out loud, and the bug makes him say it. I thought that was really interesting. What is next here? Smoothie is the guy's name from the first episode, who is the torturer and who got one up on Meredith, and he's still at Meredith's mom's place, still being creepy. He's captured a JW guy was going door to door. Love that sequence, by the way. This sort of just, like, happy, you know, really go get him, like, not taking no for an answer, not letting the smile fade from his face, as probably hundreds of people slam the door in his face, and he knocks on this door, and Smoothie lets him in. And, of course, like, we don't see the whole process, but clearly bad things are about to happen. And he's about to start cutting this guy up, and he gets a call from Blue, who says it's time for a, quote, scrub down. I don't know what that means, but it seems like that they're nervous about either something the bug said, or he's going to send him after the cameraman, or they're getting ready for this delivery that we see happening at the end of the episode. We'll find out as we watch the series, and maybe I've missed something that would have told me what it was in this episode, but he doesn't get to have his fun with the Jehovah's Witness guy, has to leave him tied up in the shower, possibly. And now I don't know that he left. He might not have left him. We cut away, so who knows what he did with him. He is leaving Meredith's mom alone, though, to do this other thing. So that is... I don't know how that's going to play out with Meredith and the pressure that's on her. It does allow us as an audience to breathe a sigh of relief, because Meredith is... like she's running around trying to find Haley through this whole episode, and the fact that she's not helping her mom out and she's not doing the thing that Blue wants her to do actively yet kind of feels like a not an oversight, but you don't want her bad stuff to happen to her mom because her mom is basically helpless at this point. So having Smoothie called off the case on her mom gives us a little breathing room as an audience to say, okay, well, if she goes and helps Haley, things will be okay. And Nick chases down another clue. For Nick, this is really just like a chain of clues kind of episode. There's not a lot of stuff happening plot progression wise. He gets to a Chinese restaurant. He eats a fish that's dead but still alive, which I thought was really interesting. And there's a metaphor there. Somebody points it out like, that's just like Nick. He's dead, but he doesn't know it yet. And I love the fact that he did eat the fish and the details about Happy knowing Mandarin, which were actually really well introduced. By the way, the writing in this where you have the earlier, the fortune cookie place, and Happy tries to speak Mandarin to the old Chinese guy, or translates what he says anyway, and there's sort of a throwaway there, and then that sets up the translation scene that's going to happen a couple scenes later for the Chinese food restaurant. That's how you do that, okay? Just from a economy of writing standpoint, the fact that you introduce that before it's a plot device, it is just sort of a get out of jail free card for him to be able to speak Mandarin, and that may also come up later in the episode. But like putting it in, seeding it in a little bit at a time is a really great way to put that into the episode as a story point, rather than just sort of dropping that bomb like, yo, by the way, I can speak Mandarin, me and Haley. Like, if you put it in as an insignificant thing to start with and then pay it off, it feels a lot more natural. But as I said, for Nick, this is really just a chain of clues, right? We're just going from the fortune cookie fortune to the actual fortune cookie place to the Chinese restaurant that sold the fortune cookie, and then eventually, like, we meet the guy who delivered the fortune cookie, or not the fortune cookie and all the other stuff. Get the clue of like he's ordering a bunch of Chinese food. We, as the audience, know, okay, this is for the kids who are receiving this food. So we get where all that's going, and Nick finally gets most of the way there. There's a great fight scene in the middle where everybody was kung fu fighting, and Nick gets to do his thing. The fried face gag was one of the most disturbing things I've seen in this show. Not like, I mean, it's not popcorn level, but it's like we do see this happen. It's pretty bad. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it looks like Nick's going to get his butt kicked finally by somebody who actually knows how to fight instead of posture, just knew how to posture from watching a lot of kung fu movies. This is my headcanon for this, all right? We don't actually see this, but in my mind, these guys are, I think Chinese. Well, they're in Chinatown, so we're going to assume Chinese. And they're putting on like a lot of karate moves, but Nick's still able to dispatch them. In my mind, they grew up like not actually doing karate or not very much of it, but just sort of watching some kung fu movies and taking like Mr. Joe's karate class down the street, and they got the black belt that Mr. Joe gives out, and then thought they could fight, and Nick mops the floor with them, except for the one guy who actually does know how to fight. Again, I don't have any evidence of that, but that's how this makes sense for Nick to be able to win this fight. And then the last part, he just gets lucky because the truck hits the guy. And then Meredith and Amanda, on the other hand, are torturing this poor delivery guy, who I really do feel bad for. Like, he's working for some bad people, and they point that out, and that's a very legitimate point. But the fact that he's trying to pay his way through Juilliard by working as a courier for mobsters is pretty choice. And the fact that they're gonna, like, he's a pianist and they're gonna mangle his fingers up if he doesn't tell them where Haley is. It's effective. It works. But man, does it, like, I was not on their side for this. I'm glad that they're both really dedicated to finding Haley, and this is an important mission, and yes, all of that, but yeah, this guy doesn't deserve this. Like, Yeah, okay, he probably deserves it. I just felt bad for him. Let's just put it that way. In other weird news from this episode, Isabella goes to a psychic. There's one of these beautiful, happy-esque twists in that she brings her like this paper bag. Is like, have you brought what I asked for? And it's just cheeseburgers, which is amazing. And this psychic lady makes contact with the other side, and apparently she really can. Okay, again, like I said, we're introducing some undeniably supernatural elements in this episode. One of them is the fortune cookies that are legitimately like have real fortunes in them, and the other one, if you were doubtful of that, all right, if you're on Nick's side and you just think, well, this lady's crazy, here's a lady who is a medium, and you think, well, she's just scamming this lady to make contact with her sons, and she feels bad, and she's just feeding off of that, right? But no, she has real information from the other side about the fact that Mikey is apparently not dead. Somehow, he did fall out the window, and I'm trying to remember like the chain of events of what happened to him and how he would not have been dead. And I don't know how that happened. All right, the window he fell out of wasn't that high. All right, he was still alive when Happy interviewed afterwards. But I feel like something happened to him that really would have put him in the absolutely extra dead category, and I forget. Somebody in the comments let me know what I'm forgetting here, because I can't tell if this is just like miraculous, like he's been literally resurrected somehow by whatever weird forces we have in this world, or if like somehow he just wasn't actually dead to begin with. But regardless, this psychic lady has real information from her weirdo medium experience. So that tells me that either she's like feeding this to her and she has it from a legitimate source, or, and this is my personal belief, she's actually psychic. We actually have these weird forces in the world, and that's how she knows. The climax of this episode, Nick and Meredith both make it to the warehouse. Nick from just a literal bolt from the blackness. All right. Again, we get to, because there is now fate in this universe, and there is in every story universe, okay? The writer is the fate of every story universe, but the fact that we have legitimate, like, magical forces now, we can accept a little bit more weird stuff happening, and this, again, one of these, like, you know, it's not like there's just going to be a lightning bolt strike and we're going to see where to go, and then a lightning bolt strikes and they see where to go. We weave one of those bits into this, and Nick goes to the department store where the Santa he heard about from last episode had worked. Meredith has also made her way to this same location, right? And they meet up, right? We talked about how all these threads tend to converge, all right? The threads are converging here. Now Nick and Meredith are, I would assume, working together. Although that could break up a little bit, but I think obviously Nick needs some help. All right, Meredith is under pressure from Blue to get Nick where Blue wants him. So they're going to be, I think, going to be on the case together going forward in some manner. And we see, of course, the big kicker here is that the kids are gone. They found the location, they've gotten there, and the kids have been taken, and they're in a big box truck now being driven somewhere, and we don't know where that is. And we don't know how Nick is going to find where that is. But we're going to find out more in a couple of weeks. The show's taking a little hiatus, which means I can't recap it if it's not here, so I won't be here next week doing this. I get to take the morning off on Thursday, but it continues to be great, guys. It continues to be just amazing. I cannot at this point imagine them like really whiffing the ending. So I'm fully strapped in. I am committed and dedicated, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. I hope you guys are really enjoying what is going on in the show. I hope you're enjoying the recaps. If you are, leave us a like. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I will see you guys in a couple weeks with another episode of the Happy Recap. Take care, y'all.